Flying into the Congo Basin saves 3 to 4 days of overland travel. It's a big country in the heart of Africa. It's about 1/3 the size of the continental United States, with a vast area having only primitive dirt tracks and quite a few rivers. An agricultural cooperative representing farmers in this small area would learn how to build bicycles from bamboo. The village of Koma hosted our workshop, along with the annual gathering of the cooperative. They were just finishing up the temporary meeting hall and workshop. Our sample bike and most of the parts for the 6 bikes we planned to start building had not arrived in time for our flight. They would come on the plane that would pick us up 10 days later. So we got started with a picture of the bike we were going to make. We had enough supplies in our luggage to build one frame and some wheels. They had already gathered some bamboo, and one could find plenty of examples of how they normally used it. We built a shelf to store the special sizes needed to build the bikes. Chuck got them started on a bamboo curing oven. The curing oven was built with the same ancient technique that is still in use to make the walls of houses, bamboo and wood-reinforced mud. I brought out a saw to emphasize more accurate cuts. Although their use of a machete was quite impressive.
The more strips you have, actually, the more chance things rock and tip.
I could see that the concept of fiber-reinforced epoxy would not be difficult to get across. They already understood about fiber orientation, a sticky material to hold it all in place. I asked to be shown where the bamboo grows, so we hiked down to the wetlands near a river. We reviewed how to select the right age of the bamboo and what diameters and wall thicknesses would be needed. It wasn't a major harvesting expedition, but certainly a good way to start getting to know the group. We still needed to determine what fiber we would use. There are 2 main types of fiber in use: the more common raffia fiber and another called vuvu. I was concerned about the raffia because it has a waxy feel, but the vuvu was harder to extract from the plant. It has to be peeled by hand from thin sticks. Then it must be pounded with another stick or in a mortar and pestle to break up the fiber. Luckily, the chief of the village was an expert and soon had a crew on the job. The next task was to introduce epoxy handling protocols and to make some test joints of the 2 types of fiber. We wanted to determine which fiber handled best and which was the strongest. A crude test was set up that served to show the differences. Raffia on the left, vuvu on the right. Next morning, after the epoxy was fully cured, we tried to see which side would break. The guys were a little shy about trying to break it, but got a feel for how strong it was.
Okay, you can't let the camera see you. I want you to go straight into the camera with this.
The raffia broke and showed the epoxy didn't stick to the fiber very well.
Comme ça? Comme ça?
Ah. C'est pas le même comme les autres.
C'est bien collé.
C'est normal, c'est fort.
So are you happy with this joint?
Yep.
You ready to build a frame with it?
Yep. We had been drying bamboo in our new oven. It worked really well. We also set up a heat bending fixture for the chainstays. So far, so good. We requested that a bench vise be found, and this one appeared. It looked like it was meant to be anchored by burying in the ground. So we got started right away with mitering and fitting. No electricity was available for electric drills, so we brought a hand-powered fixture. It worked great. The familiarity with bamboo came through. The cutting and fitting went well. We made glue with epoxy and sawdust. Soon the frame was tacked together and almost ready to wrap.
Okay. Bravo. Ça c'est très bien. Voilà. Et on ne touche pas maintenant.
Non.
Mais demain.
Et pas fait presser beaucoup parce que epoxy was mixed and the prepared vuvu was wet out and handed off to the wrapper. Although it was a different feeling to be wrapping wet fiber with gloves, they got the idea fairly quickly. Avec le 8?
Me yake abalika ukamyo. Ukagokama mangolo ngushere ma shanga tuna. Shini muyewa wakuleshika.
Bien meya.
Meanwhile, we also got started building wheels. They already had some experience working with bikes, but rarely with new parts. This was as far as we could go with what we brought. To finish setting up shop, there were a few things we needed to obtain from the nearest town, so Chuck ventured off on the motorbike, a day's ride from Coma. It was a good chance to see the condition of the roads and what the transport options were. Motorcycles are fastest, but also the most expensive. They can take shortcuts and cross rivers. Trucks come around, but not very often. When the big trucks come through, they dig deep ruts in the sandy ground, making it difficult for any other type of vehicle to use the road. Bicycles are the main form of transportation. They are loaded up and pushed through the sandy tracks, usually by two people. Then they ride back and take another load. Transport time is measured in days rather than hours, and they get a lot of breakdowns. The cranks and pedals suffer especially, but are kept running one way or another. Quite a trip to the hardware store.
Yes.
Our shipment finally arrived, and the pilot gave us 3 hours to unpack the boxes, reassemble the sample bike, show how the gears worked, and get back to the plane for the return flight. He needed to be back in Kinshasa before dark.
Ok, maintenant. Un, deux, comme ça.
C'est cassé ici. We did our best, but were dismayed to find the sample bike was damaged in shipping. That's not good. We have to do wrapping. Oui, est-ce que nous faisons les réparations? We won't be able to ride this thing. So we quickly hung some parts on the frame and set it up for a group photo. Back in Kinshasa the next day, we got a phone call saying the bike was completed and they were already riding it. And now, a month later, we've learned that all the bikes are built and they're being put into service.
Elle m'a fait tourner la tête à cause de sa beauté. Elle a encore, elle a encore. La 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 la, non 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 non, chérie Fatih. Non 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 non.